had worked with James Lee for 30 years on different boards, different groups in Yale County, Polk County, Johnson County. I knew all of the county judges. And when this matter came up, it was strictly because of this lady writing an article in a journal that was read by a lady who was on our board of trustees, Marianne Salmons, and Kay had mentioned about raising the professionalism of emergency management, and that the way to do that was through education. And she made the comment that she would like to see every university in the United States have a degree in emergency management. When that article was read by Marianne Salmons, she immediately said, and she was also, very pro Arkansas Tech, and she said, if we need a degree, why don't we start with Arkansas Tech? Why not have it here? So that was the germ that was planted. Our president at the time, Dr. Robert C. Brown, jumped on that and said, we're going to have the degree at Arkansas Tech. I was a curriculum development specialist. I was writing grants. I was able to persuade people to look at certain programs, be innovative. And I guess Dr. Brown saw that, asked me to come in, knew that I was friends with James Lee, and back to those relationships. If I had known James Lee, I probably would not have even been interested in this program. But I was called in and said, can you develop a degree in emergency management? I know nothing about emergency management. I don't know what it entails. I don't know. All I knew, first responders. That's what my idea of emergency management was. And from there, it is just so encouraging for me to see how this program has grown. And when you talk about viability, credibility, this is what it means. It means that you start with a small little germ of an idea, you develop it, it grows.
Yeah. Well, in that regard, I want to tell you, before I answer the question, my favorite story about James Lee Witt. I was working in the governor's office.
Can y'all hear?
He is the director of OES. We changed the name to Department of Emergency Management eventually, but it was the Office of Emergency Services when he first became director. And so one day, I got a lot of calls. I was the governor's senior assistant for intergovernmental relations, so anything that had to do with a state agency or a local agency, I received those calls. A widow woman called, and she said, I'm a widow woman, and the highway department came by here yesterday, and they were repairing my highway in front of my house. And they left a lot of debris in the ditch. And so, can you get the highway department to come back and clean that up? Because it's going to cause flooding the next rain comes along. So I called the highway department and I give them the situation. And they said, fine, Ms. Goss, we'll put it on our agenda the next time we're out in that area to clean that up. No worries, you can count on us. So I told the governor about this response, and he said, you're going to have to find somebody else in state government who can do that. And I said, what about my colleague James Lee Witt? He had just been named the director of OES. And he said, oh, great idea. And then we both kind of laughed. Maybe James Lee will do it, So I called James Lee and I asked him if he'd do it. And he said, well, yes. I believe I can do that tomorrow. About 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a call from James Lee. Well, I got the debris cleaned out of the ditch. And, this lady is so nice. After I cleaned the debris out of the ditch, she asked me to come in for lunch. And so he said, we had a good visit. I think we'll be friends forever. And she made the most delicious pie I've ever had. And he said, I was bragging to her about it. And she said, well, I made another one for you to take home with you. When I told the governor this, he fell out of his chair laughing. So we were tempted, every big problem we had in state government, to call James Lee to do it. So
It usually happens too.
it usually happens. yeah, that kind of attitude, I think we all, as emergency managers, need to have, you know, in that. If we draw lines about what we will do or what we won't do, you know, that's sad in a way, because we don't meet some needs that we could actually, with an effort, meet. So when James Lee appoints me as Associate Director for Preparedness Training and Exercises, I'm meeting with our training director. And coming out of the Arkansas situation, when we started, one of the goals James Lee and I had was to have an emergency manager in every county. At that time, there were not many actual emergency managers. And the ones that we had were having such difficulty getting any training. And some of them were getting training at Arkansas Fire Training Academy. But they would usually close down classes really early in the fiscal year. And so it was a problem. And we actually asked James Lee through OES to offer a lot of the training, like particularly hazmat training and specialty trainings of that sort. So when I'm talking to the training director, he's telling me all the accomplishments of the training division and everything, and new courses, and you know how this process works and everything. And I said, how many people are we able to train every year? He said 5,000. I said, 5,000 easy? Even? And he said yes. And I said, well, how many people do we have to turn down? He said, over 5,000. And I said, you know, that's unacceptable. Director Witt's not going to stand for that. So he said, well, I don't know what else we can do. We do have a good relationship with Frederick County Community College there in Maryland, which is located close to the Emergency Management Training Institute. And I said, well, you know, I'm a college professor by trade, and I feel really good with my relationship with academic institutions. What if we tried to get an academic institution in every state to offer a degree program? He said, well, you're not going to want to do that. Director Witt's not going to want to do that. And I said, why wouldn't we want to do that? And he said, well, because it might fail. And if the institutions don't go along with you, then, you know, it's going to be embarrassing. And presidential appointees don't like to fail publicly. And I said, well, failing does not bother me, but not answering this need really drives me crazy. And so thankfully, a speech that I made was covered in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and Mary Ann Salmon called Mary Ann Rollans. And so that got the ball rolling. But all of this good stuff that James Lee did, all the good stuff Mary Ann did, all the good stuff I hopefully did, would not be possible if it weren't for the people in this room. Because if we had done it, tried to make it, and you all didn't show up for classes and didn't succeed in jobs afterwards, it would have failed. It would have failed miserably. And so I ride, and Mary Ann and James Lee to some extent too, ride on your shoulders through this because of how good you do. We get a lot of credit for it, but actually you were the ones taking the courses, taking the tests, and succeeding in your jobs.